morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our panel on the evolution of the Solana NFT community. I'll open with a quick secret about Solana NFTs, which is that I think at least today, community is the highest calling that an NFT project can achieve. For proof of that, I'd point to Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, where you'll find community and social inclusion right above food, water, and shelter. And believe it or not, bulk delisting tools do not make an appearance at all. So with that, we'll start with a quick round of introductions. My name is Walker Guffey. I'm the founder of Hello Moon. We're a Solana blockchain infrastructure company. We do a lot of things, but I think most salient for today's conversation is that most Solana NFT projects, I think, are built on top of us, including the projects behind each one of our panelists. So we've got Frisk from Liberty Square, we've got Easy from Bodagos, and Amy from Rove. So let's start with introductions. Amy, you want to go first?
Sure. Hey, guys. My name is Amy Street, and been in the Solana ecosystem for a couple years now, and I am the head of growth at Rove, which is a ticketing and rewards protocol on Solana, mobile app live on Android and Apple.
What's going on? I'm Easy. I'm the founder behind Bodagos, a member and partner at the Nifty, who creates content around the NFT and crypto space, and of course, Hello Moon Maxi.
Hey everyone, my name is Frisk. I'm an NFT consultant and a video content creator in the space. I also do partnerships and advisory for other projects, most notably Liberty Square, which is a foray into what it takes to be a Web3 media property.
Awesome. All right, well, let's get into it. So the Solana NFT community, I think, clearly has evolved pretty substantially. Starting with kind of the explosion around DGNape Academy and then SMB, et cetera, kind of all the way through to today. But I guess before we get into trends and how things have changed, let's talk about how kind of each one of you became community leaders. So Amy, do you want to start with how you came to be known as Amy Street?
Sure. It honestly was like the biggest accident. I shouldn't be here, but I'm glad I am. I got my start on crypto Twitter by complete accident and was signed with Spotify and doing a podcast with them, looking for other ways to go create virality and gain an audience, and had nothing to do with crypto and NFTs. I was doing a Twitter space that got completely overrun by Solana NFT community members, and they took over my show. And I ended up completely pivoting what I was doing to include the NFT community, and it blew up. There were like 4,000 people in the Twitter space. It was insane. My following on Twitter went from like 300 people to like 5,000 people in a matter of a couple days. And after running some crazy Twitter spaces, they were like, "Are you just gonna hang out here? Or are you gonna learn about NFTs?" And found a deep love for both Solana NFTs and Web3, and incorporating my background in the music industry and seeing what could come from the utility and infrastructure of NFTs. And I said, I'm gonna just throw my whole life into this. And so between spending a lot of time on Twitter Spaces and getting to know the Solana community through hacker houses, I've kind of made my home here, and I've been really lucky to be welcomed by the community to do so.
Awesome. Easy, you wanna go next, talk about how you became a Spaces host and ultimately Bodagos?
Yeah, so we started with what everyone went through during the 2021 bull run, which was sitting in Discord for 23 of 24 hours a day, trading pictures on the internet with a bunch of random people you've never met before. And that's what a lot of this community aspect really was at the time. You made friends, met people, and participated just trading pictures, which felt absolutely ridiculous, and to many people still is. So it was something that we ended up seeing a lot of growth from that side, and you found projects and people that were in similar projects, ultimately NFTs that you were interested in, and made your home. And it's really where the community side kind of grew. And working at the Nifty, we started to create video content, spaces content, and scaling that to meet new people, interact, give dialogue on the space, and onboard a bunch of new people who have never heard of NFTs or cryptocurrency before. And it really led to us fostering this community and growing it for people inside the space, outside the space, first-time participants, long-time participants, and we still do it today. So it was just a crazy journey, trading pictures off of cryptocurrencies, finding new trends, and reporting on it basically in real time. So it's just been a wild journey, and we're still doing it today.
I love it. Frisk, you want to finish us off here?
Yeah. My journey into the space is probably similar as most people. You end up finding yourself with a lot of free time. Some friend of yours ends up telling you about this thing called Bitcoin. You start diving into that a bit. Then you find this thing called Ethereum. Then you start learning about alts and stuff. And that was my exposure to the space, was you just hear from word of mouth about cryptocurrency. And next thing it just evolves into learning about these altcoins, which is where I learned about Solana. A bunch of these influencers I was following on YouTube all started buying these weird JPEGs. I saw apes, dogs, cats, more cats, lots of cats, lots of cats. And it was this opportunity to learn more about the art side of things and how that works with blockchain. I ended up finding myself creating a Twitter account. I gave myself the name Frisk, and very fortunately met a ton of people who I'm very proud to say I'm great friends with. I'm very glad to accompany them on this stage with me. Next thing you know, you start working for a few projects, giving a hand wherever you can, hunting whitelists, moderating in Discord, simple things, and then eventually you meet more people who say, hey, I like what you do. I think you should come do something more serious. And that's how I got into NFT consulting. I wanted to push it forward with video content as well too, as that's kind of how I got into the space. I feel like it's the most value that you can bring. I've been able to learn a lot from Walker, from Amy, and from Easy, all about the video that it takes to sort of break into the culture that we have in Web 2 versus Web 3 and how to onboard more people. And after 2 years, I can very proudly say I think I made the right choice sticking around, because it's not always easy to, but that's what makes it fun, right, is that there's a challenge.
That's awesome. So I guess we'll move into kind of the state of the Solana NFT community today. You know, I guess to me, what makes the community so interesting is that I think you have kind of three elements that mix together and create an interesting combination. So you've got, you know, sort of bleeding edge crypto technology. You've got an element of trading, which it turns out human beings love, and then also a fairly healthy dose of, you know, degeneracy and kind of this interesting native crypto culture. You know, I think if you look at Salon NFTs, there have been, you know, shifting metas over time. You know, kind of early on, it was just about art and being in a Discord server, and then, you know, there was a general utility meta, so a project doing anything at all. And then there was there's been a gaming meta. There's been all kinds of metas. We don't have to get into all of them. But I guess, Amy, like how do you see kind of the Solana NFT community today?
Oh gosh. I think that it's been really fun to watch it evolve, and I think that I really am confident that I am seeing a decent amount of maturity in the community that didn't exist early on. It was just like no man's land and every man for himself, but also everybody wanted everything to win, and everybody was just happy when people did win. People were just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I do think that people are a little bit more grounded. Maybe it is because we're in a bear market, or who knows what we're in right now. But it is a little bit easier to see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I agree.
And people are making plays based on conviction and not speculation. And that excites me, because I think that that's how we are going to get the next wave in, is by seeing things realized and being realistic with our expectations, and saying, instead of saying like, this NFT project is gonna send somebody to outer space, like, okay, that's never gonna happen. But we believed it in February of 2022. And I think that the utility that we're leaning into, like community can very much be a utility. if you're curating the right one. I see a lot of great projects doing that right now. I think that Bad Environment Club is going to realize their cool utility, but their biggest utility that I think that they came out ripping with recently, and the reason they had a successful mint during a really tough time in the market was because they saw the topography of the space and knew what it meant to form a really great community and have given to that. And so I think that new communities that are forming are seeing that and are tapping into that. And the older communities are also kind of rooting themselves back to the basics of this is what it's all about, and then realistically building on top of that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think one thing to emphasize is that NFT projects are a brand new business model. And so 2 years ago, I think when all of us were getting into the space, really there was not a lot known about how to run a business like that. Actually, I remember one of the most striking things when I first joined was you could not refer to an NFT project as a business. It had to be project only. But as time has passed, as the community has evolved and learned things, I think project founders are starting to better understand, what life is going to look like 6 months after mint, 12 months after mint, and kind of how to manage their business accordingly, their community accordingly, et cetera. So Easy, maybe you want to touch on that with, the Nifty and launching Bodagos and kind of putting structure around, the Wild West.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting, to say the least. Especially because when you talk about the community side being the best utility, they're your biggest advocates. They're the ones that push the space. They're the ones that push a project. They make it their identity on the internet. You see so many of these NFT projects. People like the art. They make it the profile picture. That's essentially free marketing for a business in this capacity, especially coming from traditional businesses into this space. Your community is your biggest critic and your biggest advocate. So that's kind of the main thing, especially with NFTs, is you get these people together around a shared interest, a shared subject, something that they want to figure out more of or enjoy spending time in. And those same people end up becoming, I don't want to say a consumer, because many times it's not that, but it's also those people are the ones that can push a project forward. We've seen it in the space. Some of the biggest projects have the loudest voices on Twitter, and it's the largest personalities. It's the ones that really are the most vocal, getting more eyes on it, and you start to associate that voice, whether it's an aggressive take on the timeline of Twitter, or it's a voice with a really educational take. And it starts to make sense, and you start to relate it, which actually helps the business, because in theory, that project gains more value. But I think we're starting to see, and to Amy's point earlier, the misconception of a floor price value on an NFT project equating to a business value as someone's trying to scale a business. And trying to figure out what that business vertical is, it still feels like we're in the first inning when it comes to NFT businesses. Because so many people now are starting to understand, is this organization going to be profitable through a bear market or sustainable through a bear market? We've seen many projects shut down. We've seen communities rally against them because of it. And now we're starting to see more people accept the actual business case and feeling more comfortable holding an asset and being part of a community that's going to sustain off of that business use case.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I think kind of in the early days, many project founders actually viewed their community as a liability. So you've minted out, and you have these constituents with vague kind of demands on you, and how do you do that? But I think kind of over time, people have realized that an NFT mint is a great way to crystallize, a community of, call it 7,000 holders who are aligned with what you're doing, have a mutual interest in kind of the product you're launching or whatever it might be succeeding. So I think that's been interesting. Frisk, I think, one of the reasons that the community has been able to evolve as it has is because of people like you. And so, you've worked with multiple different projects, and you've been able to take kind of learnings from one project and bring it to the next, et cetera, et cetera. Curious kind of what your experience has been like.
There's a lot of ups and downs, but that's just like any chart you look at, I guess, so that's a good thing. Specifically this year, things have contrasted very differently from 2021, where we had projects launching. It's funny, you mentioned metas. When I think back to the early days, I'm sure you two remember, back when pixel art was so huge, those sub 1,000 collections, it was what people wanted. And I think that's kind of what a lot of projects these days are struggling with, is figuring out what it is that people want. And that goes for any community out there. Referencing NFTs a lot, but also meme coins have their own community as well too. Yep. There are DAOs that are made up that don't have any sort of attachment or affiliation to it. So when I think about what I go into when I work with projects that I do, and I think, what is going to make you guys stand out? What is it that people are going to want? And the thing that's always circling my mind that I come back to at the end of the day with NFTs is this feeling of self-identity. I can't help but feel like that's the thing that NFTs have been able to give more than any other group in Web3. This social identity, this sense of belonging that a lot of us yearn for, especially having gone through such a long quarantine, which a lot of us faced. It's very easy to feel like that lonesome feeling, and NFTs have given that opportunity to not only find a belonging, but make a name for yourself as well too. Even just from a visual image. Like, there are 10,000 Liberty Squares, but if you look at mine, most people in the space will know, oh, that's Frisk. We look at Easy's dog, there's 8,888 dogs, but we know there's only one Easy. That feeling of being able to find that thing that you can resonate with, garner around this idea, and then push it forward, is this beautiful thing that I think has created a lot of Solana communities to come together. And when you tie it in with like amazing arts and these amazing visuals that all come together, I think that's what makes it so irreplaceable. That energy, look at all the events that have been happening around here. We have so many great panels and stuff going on. A lot of that is thanks to NFTs, which you don't find on many other chains. Maybe Ethereum, but I really do think this is what makes Solana unique, and only possible on Solana, for better lack of terms.
There we go.
But I truly think that's what it comes down to, is that feeling of coming together to stand for something that's so important to you. And I don't know if either of you guys have anything you wanted to add on to that, but that's honestly how I feel about it every day I wake up.
No, I think you said it beautifully.
Thank you.
Yeah, mic drop.
Absolutely. So I think something else that's been very interesting, at least to me, is that the Salon NFT community has changed over time continuously, but it's always been very vibrant. I think one thing that we've started to see is kind of the Salon NFT community extending into other things. So I think gaming, for example, has become almost an extension of that community, but it hasn't necessarily bled into things like DeFi and kind of other parts of the chain. Curious how you guys think about taking what we've learned from community building in NFTs and extending it to elsewhere on the chain. Easy, you want to start with that?
Yeah, you talked DeFi, and that was the big thing for Ethereum in like 2016 to 18. And we look at NFT communities, and it's people that have a shared interest in a picture. Back then, it was people who had a shared interest in a token, and it led to many similar conversations. Of course, that was significantly more aggressive because it was millions, if not billions of tokens. And you saw things with like Ohm forks, where people were buying and making deals to buy if you buy, and it was chaos, but that was truly a community effort that led to the success. You look at things like Doge and Sheeb, which two meme coin tokens that have really strong communities because it's people who don't understand the space feel like they can become a millionaire if it gets to $1. As crazy as it sounds. And I think you will see some cause and effect. And we're even like at Breakpoint, we've seen a lot of stuff about airdrops for tokens from exchanges, dexes, all kinds of different products. And they all have their own ecosystems of developers, community members, and people who are just excited about that. So I think you're going to continue to see an overlap of like-minded people in NFT projects who are looking at other verticals and avenues, because this was the easiest thing to understand. I press button, I buy picture, I can press another button, I can sell picture. And then it starts to get into more layers, which kind of helps them scale. And honestly, the community side of it is where people can ask questions, find resources, and kind of level up together, which I think you're going to continue to see grow and scale. And like we saw this past history with ETH in that previous run, we're seeing very similar trends on Solana. So it seems like it's setting up to make a very similar move.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So let's kind of move in a different direction. Amy, do you want to talk about kind of, we all know and love the Salon NFT community. Arguably, we all live in it today. But what do you think is missing from the community today?
Good question. I was actually having a really great conversation with one of the community team members at Foundation, Kevin, and I think that we in the Solana community have done an excellent job forming where we are today, and I think we're light years ahead, and everyone notices it, of how united and excited we are about just seeing people win on this chain. But I think that the problem that we see is that because everyone's so excited to build here and to participate here, that oftentimes we build in silos. And I think that there's a lot of people who are building really cool stuff that don't know about the other really cool stuff that could benefit and stack on top of each other. I think that the next wave for Solana to elevate, because I do think we've kind of hit a ceiling for the place that we're at right now when it comes to community building, would to take a step back and zoom out and pinpoint some people like the Frisks. And I mean, like, there's people, I've worked with a ton of different projects and different people who have been in partnerships and business development with a lot of people from DeFi to SocialFi to NFTs to the behind the scenes stuff that's happening with Foundation and Solana Labs, and figure out what people are building that's really cool and say, oh, this is a piece of the recipe that we need. This is a piece of the recipe we need. We put this all together and now we've got something really beautiful. I think that there's some other chains that are doing a good job of that kind of, I don't know if I would call it like customer success, because I think that's kind of weird to talk about when we're talking about building on a chain. I think that's oftentimes the phrase that we use here, but I don't think it's customer success. I just think it's ecosystem success, is we've got to learn to figure out how to win together, and that's already something we have the mentality for, so it's not going to be a hard thing to funnel into.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. So easy. Question for you. So, today I think NFTs, whether on Solana or across all of crypto, is a relatively niche community. I mean, it's large, growing, vibrant, et cetera, but also kind of distinct to the rest of popular culture. How do you think about kind of mainstream adoption? And how do you think about things like Pudgy Penguins plushies being sold in Walmart, or Claynosaurus plushies, coming out soon? Like, how do you think about kind of converting from a distinct walled-off culture and becoming part of the mainstream?
I think a lot of it is a mix of like social media use, where you look at Claynosaurs who have taken over TikTok and gotten 5 to 10 million views in the last week alone. And really? People who look at these things and start to realize, like, what is that? And then it comes into the education side, which is actually what Amy was kind of talking to too, where it's like the customer success, brand awareness, but then what is the easiest path to get them to understand what's actually going on here? And that's where I look at like a Pudgy, where in Pudgy Penguins, who have these QR codes, and they don't use the typical wordage and verbiage of it's an NFT, it's a digital collectible, it's how do you make it as relatable as possible to somebody outside the space where it can click right away. And plushies, obviously emotion evoking aspects, where you look at something, it's a cute stuffed animal, there's nothing more to it. It's that easy. And you look at something on social media where it's a scene, it's an interaction, it's something that makes you think and feel something that you then show to somebody else. And we've seen a bunch of projects go this route, and it does take longer to build that IP, but at the same time, building that and working through it is a huge way to actually onboard new people, because when they start to see it more often and start to relate to it, they share it, they discuss it, they become interested. You see it in a store, you want one of these things. You've never seen an NFT before, but this thing is cool to you, or this thing made me smile or laugh, or I showed this to a family member who loved it. And it's like that scale is how you kind of onboard people. And from there it becomes that education standpoint, where you start to educate them on what's actually happening here and why this matters and what you can, quote, do with this digital collectible in the NFT sense of the world. So I think the social media side's huge, and then the education side is like that step 2, where you get it in front of them, they become curious, they get onboarded, they become educated, now they're stuck here with us.
No, absolutely. And speaking of onboarding family members, my 18-month-old daughter loves her Pudgy Penguins plushies, so kind of getting them early. Amy, so kind of question for you, in your capacity at Rove, if you think about Liberty Square, or you think about Bodagos, or most Solana NFT projects, it's about the art, it's about PFPs, et cetera. Rove is using Solana NFTs to achieve something entirely different. So Rove is using Solana NFTs for ticketing and access to discords and things like that, kind of without getting too technical, do you want to talk about how sort of the non-PFP use cases of NFTs have evolved?
Yeah. The funny thing is when I came on as an advisor before I moved into the role that I'm in with Rove, I heard that they were not doing a PFP, and I was like, guys, this is a mistake. You've got to put a face on this, or people are not going to want to get involved with it. And it has been an uphill battle, but I really do believe that some sort of utility NFT, just with the right marketing and the right utility that's actually going to realize, can go a long way in this space, and it has a place in the ecosystem that is different than PFPs and can actually be paired well with PFPs. The great thing about the Rove medallions is that they aren't necessarily competing for the spot of a profile picture with a Bodago or with a Liberty Square NFT. They are a great partner to anybody in the space, and the Rove medallions stake in our app for Rove credits, which are an off-chain token, and those Rove credits are a shared reward token that can be used to purchase anything in Rove World. Right now, our first product that we've launched has been that ticketing side of things. So when you're going to the Claynosaurs event, when you're going to Solana Summerfest that we hosted in Nashville for upwards of 300 people this year, that if you were staking those Rove medallions and you wanted to get a $700 ticket to get VIP for Solana Summerfest, you didn't have to pay anything because your Rove medallion is staking for those credits, and you could use those as rewards in Rove World. The next phase of Rove World will be V2, which is actually kind of leaning into this more merchandising and physical digital products, fan clubs, and other cool SocialFi elements that will be under the umbrella of Rove World. So not just ticketing for concerts, for events, for conferences, all those kinds of things, but also physical and digital products. So we really kind of saw this way to bridge the gap between all these different projects and say, what kind of utility can we give to everyone? And so I'm pretty bullish on a good utility NFT.
Absolutely. And we were excited to kind of work with you guys on that whole process. Frisk, question for you as somebody who has been an advisor and worked closely with a ton of different NFT projects. How have you seen kind of the way that founders think about running projects in the long term kind of evolve? How have you seen increasing sophistication around business model, things like that?
It's a learning curve for every different one. So I've had the privilege of working with projects that are intended to be brands, intended to be media properties, and intended to be full-fledged casinos. And that's kind of the biggest thing with NFTs, is that they all represent something different. They don't necessarily all have to be trying to do one of the same thing. I think a lot of their struggle when starting with a project, because I say struggle in the nicest way because my job is to help guide people who are maybe new to the space, people who want to step in. We take Web2 founders or Web2 companies that want to build on chain and build something that they can make for their users. The translation there is very difficult, stepping from Web2 into Web3. It is a big gap to jump. It's funny, I was having this talk with someone the other day where in Web2, metrics that are really important are things like KPIs or Instagram followers, whereas on Twitter, it's more very garnered towards Web3. And so that's a lot of people don't understand when they get right in, is just how different the people and the users are here, what they respond to well. And there's a big communication factor on that front, which a lot of people don't understand. And I see these great projects with these great products who don't always understand how to communicate it, who don't always understand what it is the users want. And that's where a lot of the guidance that, at least what I do, comes in. And I'm sure that everyone on the stage actually has been there before, of talking to founders and saying, hey, you have some great things here, but think about the way that a lot of the culture Web3 degens, for better lack of word, have created, and what it takes to adhere to them, what it takes to be their sort of interest. That's always the biggest struggle, in my opinion, is that go-to-market phase where founders have something great, they have something that works, but they haven't found a way to communicate it in an attractive manner to the general population of NFT users.
Yeah, no, I love it. So kind of open the panel with a comment about the importance of community and kind of the core human need that it meets. I think from a business perspective, what makes a community so valuable is that it turns out it's very difficult to aggregate 10,000 fanatical followers. But once you've done that, you can sell things to them, whether it's NFTs or any of the different business models you mentioned. But I think nonetheless, kind of getting this community for a project initially is very difficult, and I think it's where a lot of startup projects fail. So Easy, do you want to just take a minute or two and talk about kind of what you've seen work in terms of bootstrapping a community for a new project, and maybe even what you've seen not work?
Yeah, it's definitely a back and forth battle, I'd say, for what does work and what doesn't work, and that changes a lot too. What worked in 2021 doesn't work today, and what works today most likely would not have worked in 2021. In the early bull run, when everything was going up in price, people just wanted to make money. Growing a community was all about what access do you get, how quickly can I sell something, what other opportunities can you give me to sell something, and it was like a me type of approach from that user side. In today's market, it's significantly more of a what is going on here, longer term vision. I want to be a part of something that's being grown, developed, nurtured, fostered here as a business, and see and follow out that path. And there are still people who are me, who just want to make money on it. But of course, there's other people who just genuinely believe in the same vision that you have. And that community growth was something that at the Nifty we really went through, where it was multiple years since that bull run of fostering a community and finding people who just enjoyed the space, liked the content, and wanted to support us in that way, which was a totally unique shift from people who would grind in a Discord for 16 hours a day to be able to buy a picture to sell it for more money. And it's just been a very interesting shift, and I think that that's only going to continue to change longer term too, where we see bigger brands and names get into it. Obviously, Visa coming to Solana is huge. Yep. And I think that there's going to be things that they try that are going to be completely unique and new, and opportunities, and we're going to continue to see more brands step into the Solana ecosystem, especially with the success the token's had, the positive light that it's had, and I think more brands are going to want to try things specifically on this blockchain, yep, where that community growth is going to be totally different than anything that we've seen before. So there's a lot of change, a lot of movements, and a lot of trial and effort just to see what actually works, and I hope to see those brands kind of double down on what works and continue to iterate on top of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very interesting point, and it's definitely something that we've seen at Hello Moon in terms of sort of very large Web2 companies being interested in Solana NFTs. I think you guys might have seen. I think Steve Aoki is doing an NFT drop with StepN, and it's been very interesting. Amy, do you want to take a second and touch on what you've seen? I guess if Easy's talking about what works with community building, maybe you can talk about where you've seen founders go wrong and where you've seen kind of community builders stumble.
Yeah, wow, what a he got the easy.
Or you can take out maybe like what you've seen work. Maybe that's
no, it's okay. I'm happy. I'm a hot take girl. I'm down to take it. I think that when it comes to what doesn't work in this ecosystem, and I'm really happy about it, to be honest, is that the hype meta is dying.
That's right.
I am thrilled about it because I'm exhausted by over-promising and under-delivering in this ecosystem. I think it's just not doing us any favors for growth, and it makes us look incredibly silly in a space that is already we've got an uphill battle. And now that we're kind of like the comeback, I feel like we're the comeback kid right now, Solana is. And I think that we're the underdog that everyone wants to see win. We have a really great opportunity to show people what we're made of. And the one thing I do know is that the community, even like the one thing I think is so beautiful about the Solana community, I think that we just enjoy watching each other win. If Frisk were to buy into an NFT project or get into a meme coin and it does well and he's having success, I'm not like, I think on other chains there's a lot of like animosity of like, that should have been me. I think in this ecosystem, we see other founders watch other founders succeed and then see them cheer them on. And I want to see more of that, where it's like we see people win, let's champion those winners instead of like creating false narratives of what could be and just kind of grounding ourselves back on the floor to continue to climb the stairs upward.
Absolutely. Frisk, do you want to take, I'll give you Easy's question. So what have you seen work in terms of aggregating communities for a project that's just starting out?
Can I take us a bit of a different direction with kind of this?
Please, yeah, let's do it.
Can we talk about Web2 communities for a second?
Yeah, let's do it.
I think that's something that I see a lot of us having that sort of experience from in relation to. Like, I assume we're all fairly close in age. You guys remember Webkins?
Oh, yeah.
Club Penguin? Those are the games we kind of played growing up. I don't know if you guys were ever in high school listening to SoundCloud, ever using those apps where you got to connect with like smaller artists. One of my favorite quotes to date comes from a founder in this space, and he says, back when I was in high school, I used to listen to these underground rappers and these bands, and 2 years later they would blow up, and they'd be famous. And all I had to show for it was I could say, oh, I knew them when they were just starting out. NFTs have this opportunity for you to be able to bet and place bets on these creators, on these companies, and these people that you truly believe in. I think it extends not only from NFT projects, but also just from what it is that Web3 encompasses as a whole, which is ownership. You have this opportunity to own something that belongs to you and something that means a lot to you. And through that, you can also make bets on the people in the space as well, too. That's kind of the big thing I want to address here for anyone who's super interested in listening and they want to know what more can I do to get involved in the NFT community or even the Solana ecosystem. For founders, my biggest advice is ask questions. Ask as many questions as you can. There is nothing wrong with talking to incredible thought leaders that I'm sitting next to. A bunch of them, there's tons of people around at this conference. If you ever aren't sure where to go, they're always willing to help because we always want to see what's best for Solana. And as the users, if you're looking for the communities to break into or the places that you want to be a part of, look around and see what interests you. It can be that simple. How many times have you guys bought something just because you liked it? Like just because you really wanted it? I think that a lot of the time pays off. We look at what Clanistores had with their massive announcement over the past few days, with Mad Lads dropping a whole exchange in Dubai. Those are big things that can attract a lot of people, and it just depends whatever you like the most. I believe in putting your money where your mouth is. So I'd say that's kind of the green flags you look for, the ones that you feel in your gut. And if you're ever unsure, ask questions.
No, absolutely. And by the way, this may be true for people in the audience, but SoundCloud did not exist when I was in high school. It did have MySpace, though. You can listen to music there. So anyway, we've got about 2 minutes left in the conversation. So let's end with kind of what do you think is next for Salon NFTs, and we'll say 40 seconds each. Amy, what do you think is next?
Sheesh. I think that it's going to be a really different time period that we're going into with NFTs, and I'm excited about it. I think that everyone was following the same set of rules for the last couple of years, and I see people deciding to make their own rules, and we're seeing some differentiation, and I think that that's what's going to be most important is people building unique things and having conviction in their unique things, and then other people supporting builders that have good trajectory.
Absolutely. Easy. You want to go next?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a much larger scale than 10,000 pictures. I think we'll see 100,000, if not unlimited supply, rewards for brands, and that's essentially what a community is a mass market of people who can all find something that they can share and relate to. Where we've already seen brands try this on other chains, it's now making significantly more sense to try it on Solana. Compressed NFTs, 1 million NFTs for $140, if not less, and that can open up a massive opportunity for brands and consumers alike, which I think is going to be the next phase of NFTs is basically unlimited supply, little to no cost to participate, and just a wide reach across the board.
No, absolutely. Frisk, you want to
I actually completely agree with Easy. I think we're going to see this 5 to 10K model that is so common just kind of phase out. We're going to see massive collections, or on the contrary, very, very, very small collections. I think those are going to be the two places that really have the most chance for success. Either little to cost no NFTs, or NFTs that are so expensive that make you feel very exclusive, get you into these country club-esque sort of projects. And the same thing, brands stepping in, companies stepping in, that's where a lot of the eyes are going to be because they're recognizable, and that's what a lot of people look forward to.
No, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it. So thank you, everyone.